Hello boxing fans, welcome back to Andy's Cavern. Hope you're all well out there. It's sprung to my attention there's a special anniversary just upon us, which is the 50th anniversary of probably one of the greatest boxing spectacles we've ever had, and that was the Rumble in the Jungle, which was George Foreman defending his heavyweight world title against the greatest Muhammad Ali in Kinshasa, Zaire, and this was the 30th of October 1974. It was quite an amazing event, how it came about, and my first recollection of this fight, my first boxing memory, it's quite a sad one. It's Muhammad Ali fighting Larry Holmes, and I would only be, I don't know, probably 8 or 9 year old, and I couldn't understand why Muhammad Ali wasn't winning. I didn't know any different because I was only a wee boy, because everybody knew him as the greatest, so you thought he was unbeatable at the time. That's what you're led to believe anyway, but he'd already been beaten by that point, but by Joe Frazier and Ken Norton and Leon Spinks. But that was my first ever boxing memory, and then I got a bit disillusioned with football when I was probably about 16 year old. Started taking an interest in boxing, and then I'd probably be about, I think I was about 19, and a pal of mine, Big Robbie Sutherland, introduced me to, well, not only Rumble in the Jungle, it was Champions Forever. That was the name of the video. Champions Forever was all about the golden age of heavyweights. It was Muhammad Ali, George Foreman, Joe Frazier, Ken Norton, and it was like a video talking all about it. I don't, you could probably still get it, it's maybe on YouTube, but if you haven't seen it, it's well worth a watch. It talks about the fights between each other that they had through their careers and that. Yeah, it's an interesting watch. So my pal Big Robbie introduced me to that, and I never looked back really. I just watched it, and I got a copy of it, and I probably watched it. And back in the days, there was no YouTube or anything like that, so you had VHS video recordings of fights, which I had many, but that was the one I always used to go back and watch regularly, and I never got tired of it. But I've not watched it for quite some time now. I think we had a boxing night in here one night, and we put it on after one of the big shows, if I remember right, and enjoyed it again. But it is a fascinating fight, because Ali was a big underdog. He was deemed as being way too old, and when you think he was 32 at the time, he'd lost 3 years of his career, maybe the best three, many people can say, because the stance he took on against Vietnam War, and you've got to admire a man that stands up for what they believe in. So yeah, so he was deemed as being too old at 32. George Foreman was 24, I believe, and George Foreman was making light work of people that give Muhammad Ali good fights. He took the title off smoking Joe Frazier, and I think it might have been Jamaica. He fought Joe Frazier, George Foreman. I think he dropped him something like 6 times in 2 rounds, so he beat him inside 2 rounds. This is a guy that beat Muhammad Ali in the fight of the century when they first fought. Muhammad Ali avenged that defeat in a non-title contest, and then he fought Frazier again after he beat Foreman. So Ali's deemed as being the underdog, and there was not many people, I think it was a few people, picked him to beat Foreman, but I mean, Foreman was like a wrecking ball. He was, and another guy, Ken Norton, who'd beat Ali, broke his jaw and he had 3 good fights with Ken Norton, all very close fights. Again, Foreman smashed him in 2 rounds, inside 2 rounds. So Foreman looked unbeatable. He was a big brooding monster, wasn't he? Big brooding monster. A bit like Sonny Liston, but 10 years after Sonny Liston, when Ali faced him. And so it was a big challenge for Ali. I think the fight was delayed. I can't remember when it was meant to be initially, but Foreman got a cut eye in sparring, and he wanted out of Africa. He didn't want back. He hated it there apparently, but they didn't want to let him out of Africa because they feared he wouldn't come back. I think it was Don King that kind of masterminded the whole thing. He got the is it Mobutu Seka, I think his name was, the president of Zaire, put up the money. I think they put up $10 million at that time, so it was supposed to be $5 million each or something. If you do a bit of research, you'll find the exact figures. I'm only going by memory here, which is not always a good idea. But they put the money up, but it was a big extravagant show on before it as well. I don't know if that was in the week leading up to it, like James Brown and BB King and loads of big artists were out there putting on a show, so it was quite an event. It's maybe, when you see what Turki Al Sheikh's doing now, Saudi Arabia, not only in Saudi Arabia, he's done it in London, he's done it in Los Angeles. I think the next show is in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, but he seems to be wanting to put on a big extravagant event or show or whatever you want to call it. So back then, and 50 years ago, maybe you could say something similar was happening back then. I don't know anything about the undercard. I don't know if there was an undercard. That's something I have to research. I've never ever heard anything about an undercard. But I think there was people being, I don't know, it was prisoners being, there was stuff going on, like prisoners being shot and that. Just, I don't know, it was make people aware if you step out of line. You know, they're trying to put on this big show to promote their country. You step out of line, you pay the price. But you think he was quite ruthless, the president of Zaire at the time. In fact, I don't think he attended I think he watched it on closed circuit TV. I don't think he attended the actual fight. Maybe he feared for his safety. I think there was also big rain or floods came after it, and the place was all, after the event happened, but I think it was Dr. Ferdi Pacheco, Muhammad Ali's physician, said he feared if Ali got hurt, the nearest neurological hospital, I'm sure it was Madrid or something like that. So there was concerns. There was, I mean, they both came out as healthy as they could be after a big fight, I think, in that magnitude. But so there was nobody seriously injured at the time. And maybe that was just lucky, because maybe the facilities weren't really there for if something had gone wrong, you know. So, but it was a spectacle, the fight itself. There was a bit of noise made about the ropes being slack as well. There was some controversy over that. But the fight itself, Foreman came out swinging, didn't he? As he always did. And Ali moved about for I think it was the first round or two. Ali moved about, and then he went to the ropes, doing the famous rope-a-dope, which people thought he was mad at the time, but he was letting Foreman wing away on him. But all the time Foreman was winging away, Ali was pinging him with straight punches, because straight punches got less distance to travel than big swinging winging hooks and that, doesn't it? So plus Ali's hand speed was, he's still a great hand speed. I don't think his foot speed was there anymore. That's probably how he had to change styles from being, because he said he was going to, I'm going to dance, and that's what he said on the build up to it, but he didn't dance from the second round on, so he probably couldn't. His probably legs weren't what they used to be. And Foreman is actually very effective at cutting the ring off. And obviously a very heavy puncher, Foreman. I reckon he could be one of the biggest punchers all time. Big George. But Ali lay on the ropes letting Foreman wing away at him, talking to him all the time, telling him, you ain't got nothing. Is that all you got, George? You're swinging like a sissy. Let me see your backs. All things like that. He was just getting in Foreman's head and talking him and breaking his will. Foreman was hitting him with some big punches, but as we know, Ali had a great chin and he was very resilient. But Ali was pinging him with these straight punches, and they were taking their toll. That and probably the incredible heat. And Foreman just getting angrier and angrier and trying to punch as hard as he could all the time. And eventually, probably you would see him starting to get weary about the fifth round, and then 6, 7, and 8. He was still landing punches, but there was probably less in them by that point. And then Ali's backed in against the ropes, and Ali was also hitting him with lead right hands quite a lot, which was a risky move to take, especially against somebody like Foreman. But it paid off, and he kept pinging him with these straight punches. And then Foreman was leaning on him, but Foreman he was so tired. I remember Ali saying he was so tired, he was just going to fall up in the ropes, and he said, man, this is the wrong place to get tired. You are in trouble. It's probably making Foreman angrier and angrier. But by that time it was too late. Foreman's energy reserves were drained, weren't they? And then Ali caught him with a couple of punches and then came off the ropes and caught him with a beautiful 2-punch combination. I think it was 2 or 3 punch combination, and it was like he had his fist cocked to hit Foreman again, but he just watched him go down, didn't he? And the ref counted him out. But I mean, Foreman wasn't knocked out cold. If you watch it back, he was lying on the floor with his head up a bit, and I think in interviews I heard him say his manager was counting, and his manager told him the fight was over. So whether it miscounted or what, I don't know, but either way, I think Foreman was done by that time. His energy had gone. It was roasting hot. Ali had done a number on him. Not only did he punched him to bits, he talked him to death as well. So probably his ears were bleeding. He's fed up hearing Ali insulting him, which was entertaining. Listening to Muhammad Ali back in the days, you only have to watch the many interviews he did with like Michael Parkinson and that. He was a very entertaining guy. So I mean, that's my memories from the Rumble in the Jungle, but it's amazing. It's 50 years since that historic event. Probably one of my favourite fights. I mean, Muhammad Ali is probably one of my favourite fighters. Always has been. If he wasn't the greatest ever boxer, you could probably say he was the greatest man to ever box, because he was more than just a boxer. He was a huge personality and a character. He was funny. He was charming, wasn't he? He was charismatic, and there was nobody like him. There'll never be anybody like him. He was a one-off, and he stood up, like I said, with the Vietnam War. He stood up for what he believed in. So there's not too many people like that in life. You'll come across them occasionally, but to see somebody who really stands up for what they believe in, and he was just an amazing fighter. And Foreman went from being that brooding, angry, Sonny Liston type bad man to he became a really charismatic guy. I think he went on and fought. 1977, he got beat by a guy called Jimmy Young, and I think he he had some heat exhaustion or something. He had some, I don't know if he was hallucinating or something about God and Jesus and that, and then he had a sort of spiritual awakening, and then he retired from boxing and went away he became a preacher or a church minister or something for 10 years. But I think the story was his church was needing funds to support it, and he got himself his running shoes on and started out running again and made a comeback after 10 years away. I think he was something like 38 when he started making his comeback. And we all know that story. He had quite a few fights. He came back slowly, and then eventually after he had a few attempts at winning the heavyweight title back. He had a great fight with Evander Holyfield. That's quite an entertaining fight to watch, but came up short. Who else did he take on for? He had a fight, I think it was a WBO title fight with Tommy Morrison. Again, came up short, lost in points in both these fights. And then finally, at the age of 45, he was fighting Michael Moorer for the heavyweight title world heavyweight title. I think Michael Moorer was something like 20 years younger than him. I think Michael Moorer was 26 maybe, so he's maybe 19 years younger than Big George, but Big George was getting outboxed by Michael Moorer until the 10th round when Big George landed a left-right, which kind of stunned Moorer, and then he landed another left-right, and that put Moorer on his back. And that was it. Foreman was champion again, 20 years later, which was amazing. I think he wore the same shorts, actually, as what he wore in Rumble in the Jungle, which was quite astonishing. So that was Foreman again. His story's amazing as well, George Foreman. He became this big character, charismatic guy, selling his mean growing machine. I used to have one of them, actually. It was quite good for doing steaks and burgers and that on. But I think he made more money out of that than he made out of boxing. I believe Hulk Hogan got offered the deal but turned it down, but gee whiz, I bet he regrets that now. Made Big George a fortune. So that's my memories on the Rumble in the Jungle. I'm sure you maybe have your own. And if you do, feel free to share them in the comments section. And as always, like and subscribe and share it with your friends. And we'll have some more content coming along very soon. Okay guys, but maybe like me, you might, tomorrow night I think I might get Rumble in the Jungle on and have a rerun of it and see if it's still the same as I remember it. Okay guys, take care, all the best, cheers.